Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of What Does This Data Say? Now, if you happen to be a businessman in India, and especially if you are running a small or a medium business enterprise, and you are in the retail space, or you want to enter the booming e-commerce market, then this episode is just for you. This is because the government of India has recently taken a major step to help the small and medium enterprise businesses to get on the e-commerce platform and give a stiff competition to people like Amazon and Flipkart, who hold the monopoly of these markets today. Now, this step is such a huge and a major step that all the big players like Amazon, Flipkart, Tata's, Reliance, all of them have taken a note of it and are getting jittery. So what am I talking about? Here the key word is, or the key acronym is ONDC. Yes, it is ONDC. Now if you go on Google and you make a search on ONDC, right at the top a few top stories will pop up which read ONDC, Government's Amazon Flipkart Challenger. ONDC, Government backed e-commerce network to take on Amazon. E-commerce platform ONDC gets fund infusion, and ONDC may make e-commerce more inclusive. Now, ONDC stands for Open Network for Digital Commerce. Now, if you think this is going to be too technical, no, it is not. I am not going to get into the technical issues of this platform. I am only going to tell you all the benefits as a retailer that will be available to you. Now in this episode I am going to tell you all about this open network for digital commerce and how you can use it for enhancing your business or even starting a new one. But before doing that, I will tell you why it was necessary for the government to bring in such a platform and what is the market we are addressing. I have taken the data for this episode for telling you about the markets from these two reports. The first one is from Boston Consulting Group, Retail Resurgence in India, dated February 2021. The second report is titled Retail from IBEF, India Brand Equity Foundation, November 2021. India has the fifth largest retail market in the world. We have been growing consistently in the last decade. In the year 2020, our market was valued at 66,22,500 crore. And last year, though the final figures have not yet come, we are expected to have done around 90 lakh crore rupees. Many of you might want to know this value in dollars. So here it is. We did $883 billion worth of retail in the year 2020, and last year this is going to be around $1,200 billion. As I said, we have been growing consistently in the retail market. Between 2011 and 2014, we grew at 13.5%. From 2014 to 2019, around a little over 12%, and that continued till 2021. And thereafter, the estimate till 2026 is that we will grow at around 7.8% every year. There is a slowdown of growth primarily because the people who spend today is the young millennials, and as they get older, their spending habits will change. Now I'll give you some more insight into the Indian retail market. The largest component on which we spend money is food and groceries, which constitute 65% of the entire market. At the second place is apparel and footwear at 9.8%. Then comes consumer durables at 9.2%, followed by jewelry and accessories at 7.1%, health and entertainment 3.7%, home decor 2.7%, beauty personal care 2%, and the others are 0.5%. This is the breakup for the year 2020, but more or less this has been continuing in the last decade. The same data I will show you in rupees, and then you will know the enormity of our retail market. For the year 2020, I had told you our market was 66 lakhs 22,500 crore. 65% of that is 43 lakhs 4,625. That is the amount of food and groceries we Indians have consumed in the year 2020. The rest of the figures are given in this chart, which are way below the food and groceries. And now you will understand why there are so many people who are into selling food and groceries in India. Every day you hear of a new company selling either vegetables or groceries or fruits in your city. Almost dozens of companies have come up in the last few months. They all want to target this very market. The retail market as a percentage of GDP in 2020, well, in 2020 our GDP was around 2.6 trillion dollars, which was equal to 1 crore 95 lakh crore Indian rupees. Retail business was 34% of our GDP, and food and groceries were 22% of our GDP. As I said, we consumed 43 lakhs 4,625 crore worth of food in India, and if we made a profit of even 5%, you can calculate the money involved in this market. So this is the good part of this growth stories. Lot of players jumping in, a huge market, everyone selling groceries like Amazon, Flipkart, Tata's, Big Basket, Reliance, and so many other hundreds of players. But there is one disturbing data which I want to show you. Now this is regarding the small shops. About 20-25 years ago, the entire food and groceries were handled by these small kirana shops in your area, which are the small and mid-sized mom and pop outlets, which accounted for 100% of the market almost. Now today that has come down to 75%. Over the last 25 years, they have lost out the business to these big players, because the big players have a very strong back end and they are much more proficient in their delivery mechanism. So in the year 2020, the retail market was 66 lakhs 22,500 crore, and 75% of that works out to be 49 lakhs 66,875 crore rupees. Now I'll tell you the second part of this story and why the government did what it has done. Just to reiterate, what is retail? Any goods or products which is bought by the consumer, the end consumer, is counted in the retail market. Therefore, business to business, which is B2B, and services is not counted under retail. So I am going to talk about e-commerce. E-commerce is a part of the retail market which is done online. Again, only the products which are bought by the end consumers are counted in the e-commerce market. Here is a chart showing the e-commerce market in India. In 2011, it was a meager 18,000 crore and formed only less than 1% of the total retail market. It gradually grew until in 2020 it was 2,25,000 crore rupees, which was 3.4% of the retail market. It is expected that last year it will be around 6,30,000 crores, which will be around 7% of the retail market. Now, why this sudden jump? This is because of the post-pandemic jump, that whatever people did not buy in 2020, they have started spending money more than usual in 2021. Now this means that e-commerce is going to grow at a faster pace when compared to the retail market. Secondly, because of the pandemic, the buying habits of the Indian public have changed. People who did not buy online before 2020 have now shifted buying things online because during the pandemic they learned the convenience of e-commerce. Here is the growth chart of the Indian e-commerce space. From 2011 to 2014, e-com business in India grew at 80%. From 2014 to 2020 at 14%, and last year between 2020 and 2021 it grew at 180%. The reason I have already explained to you. In the next 5 years, it is expected to grow at a year-on-year growth rate at around 19%. So just to remind you, retail in India in the next 5 years is going to grow at around 7.8%, while e-com in India will be growing much faster at around 19%. So this becomes the excellent time for you to start any e-com business in the retail segment. And that is the reason hundreds of companies are getting into this e-commerce space every month and giving competition to the already existing companies. Now I will talk of one more aspect of the e-commerce market, which is called the e-commerce marketplace. Now the e-commerce marketplace is a platform provided by several companies where I as a retailer can go and list my products on that platform and then start selling. The customer acquisition is done by that platform itself. For instance, if I list on Amazon, then Amazon's customer will get a chance to buy my product. In addition, the marketplace companies, most of them also handle delivery and payment collection. So sitting at home, I can easily start a business using any of these e-commerce marketplaces. However, this is easier said than done. Firstly, all these companies sell their own products also on the same platform. So I first of all get competition from the platform itself. Secondly, they have a very complicated way of onboarding new resellers. There is a whole set of procedural requirements and it takes time, effort and money to list your product. Third, that if your product is making profit, the first right of profit goes to the marketplace and you get very little of the profit to yourself. The biggest problem on these e-marketplaces is discovery of your product. That is, if a customer types a search, will your product appear in the top 1 or 2? So the fight is always for this space, which is about a 4 inches by 6 inches space, where when I type a query, my product should come in the first few places. If it doesn't, then it is very unlikely some customer will buy your product when it occurs at the 15th place. So how do you ensure that your product is discoverable? For this, every company starts charging money. That there are several mechanisms to bring your product to be discovered, and that is again an expense to be borne by the customer. And it is not that if you pay once your product will always come. It's a recurring expenditure you have to pay every day, and then there is host of other mechanisms through which all these marketplaces make money, because the fight, as I said, is for that 4 by 6 inches space, which is the window to the marketplaces. So if my local kirana shop tomorrow wants to go and start selling on Amazon, it is virtually impossible for him to do so. The entry barriers are huge. On the one hand, the market in which he had been operating for last 15-20 years is shrinking and these big companies have been just taking away his businesses without giving him an equal opportunity to use his platform. And that is where the government had stepped in. They have been monitoring the e-com space for last 10 years, and they have seen this big threat from the big players which is coming to the small kirana shop owners. So having foreseen these problems, last December the government decided to set up a company. It's a private sector company but fully supported by Government of India. There are several eminent members on this on the board of this company, which includes Nandan, Nilekani and R.S. Sharma. If you recollect, Mr. R.S. Sharma was responsible for the rollout of the Aadhar program as well as the Cowin program. Now, not only this, many banks like HDFC, Kotak Mahindra, Axis, State Bank of India and Punjab National Bank have picked up stake in ONDC. And now lastly, I will now tell you what is this ONDC platform. So in very simple terms, if I as a retailer have a product and I am selling that product say on Amazon, and now I want to also sell on Flipkart, there is no mechanism where at a click of a button I can also put my listing on Flipkart. To list on another platform is again investment of time and money. So there is no interoperability. These are all closed marketplaces who have their own proprietary mechanisms to list and discover. By discover I mean search the product on their platforms. Now what ONDC will do is, it is a set of standards which by force will have to be implemented by all the players in the e-marketplace space, which means that when I list a product say on a company which is following ONDC, I can easily shift it to any other platform. Not only listing, it also talks of standards of discovery, which is the most important and critical aspect in e-commerce. Today, Amazon and the Flipkarts and the likes of them make enormous money on discovery and advertising, and which the small and medium companies cannot afford. So the government is going to put a standard that how you will discover. This is going to bring down the cost of listing as well. There will be a uniform mechanism to search the products. ONDC is expected to digitize the entire value chain, standardize operations, foster inclusion of suppliers, usher in efficiency in logistics and augment value for its consumer. This is mainly true for the small and medium businesses. Now, when will ONDC get operational? Well, there was a report 2 days ago that ONDC will launch in April, and 10 companies are all set to roll out these products. This is the clipping from the New India Express dated 11th April. However, according to ONDC, these standards will be fully operational only by August-September later this year. So in the end, I'll just sum up what I said. The e-commerce market in India is growing at a phenomenal rate. The barriers which were there put by the big players like Amazon and Flipkart is all set to go away. The government is bringing in to standardize this market so that it will be open equally to all the players, especially for the small and medium businesses. So this is the right time. If you want to start a e-com business, think about it and start implementing your plans, because better times may not come again. So thank you all for watching this episode. I hope you liked it. So see you again next week in another episode. Till then, namaskar and goodbye.